Hi everybody. We're going to look at early samurai culture today, and also, in doing so, talk about the Genpei War, the Great War between the Taira and the Minamoto clans, which brought to an end both Taira political domination over the Heian court, but also the Heian era itself, and set up something very, very different, a warrior government. More on that next week. But who were these samurai? I think there are so many different ways to approach that question. Let's just cover some of the important aspects of this culture, with the understanding that this is really the tip of the iceberg. Please go and find out more about these fascinating people on your own. Patriarchy, right. Well, this is a warrior society that is indeed very patriarchal. I think you get a great sense of that from the Tonomura reading for this week. But it is a culture that is certainly not unique in this way, in the way that it is patriarchal, but nevertheless, samurai or women samurai are still samurai. They are expected to be warriors as well, in a different way. They're expected to identify themselves as warriors. And they are expected sometimes to fight. They are expected to fight in defense of their homes. They're expected to fight in defense of their families. And if the battle goes against them, they're not expected to survive. Once again, think back to that Tonomura article and the extreme unease that samurai felt about possible about relations about sexual nature, really any kind of nature, between who they viewed as their women and outsiders. It just confused things. But they were expected to fight and to put up a fight, and when the battle went against them, they were expected to commit suicide. Male samurai did this by slicing open their bellies. You may have heard of this. It's referred to as harakiri. The other way to read that character compound in Japanese is seppuku. It's the more elegant way of saying this, seppuku. And women are expected to drive a dagger through their throats. So the laws of war were very harsh, and women samurai were expected to follow them. They were expected to train to be able to offer basic resistance. Usually with this weapon right here, this large glaive, a sword on top of a pole, called a naginata. Over time that became identified more and more as a woman's weapon. While being very heavy, it did offer women the benefit of greater range. So that was thought to be something that women who were physically smaller than samurai men were expected to make the most of. And there are some women who are who reputedly went into battle. These are known as onnabugeisha. I put a question mark here because while there do seem to be some examples of them, these are rather rare. There are more examples, many more examples of women fighting in besieged castles, for example, then committing suicide when battle does not go well, or maybe living through it when a relieving army arrives. But women who went on campaign alongside men, these are rare. One of these was Tomoe Gozen, who was fought with Minamoto forces. We shall hear a lot more about them during the Genpei War. She seems to be somebody, certainly who is reflected in the historical record. One can wonder how accurate the exploits of her military daring do are, in the same way that one can wonder about the exploits of any of these people who are being depicted in these war epics. These are very romanticized kinds of depictions. And there are other depictions of women warriors which are frankly just legendary, literally legendary. There is Empress Jingu, for example. Now, yes, before the emergence of the samurai as such, but Empress Jingu is somebody who samurai, especially later in the late Tokugawa period, and especially in the early Meiji period, descendants of samurai, like to look back on, because she was seen as a warrior for Japan. She is imbued with all sorts of qualities that samurai women were supposed to have: bravery, sacrifice, caring for her child. And this comes through in a very interesting way. Empress Jingu is rumored to have conquered Korea with an army without spilling one drop of blood. And the story that comes across is just absolutely legendary. She was the mother of Emperor Jimmu, who later went on to unify all of Japan in the legendary early chronicles of Japanese history. And as such, she is seen to be somebody with a great destiny. She apparently had a vision where she talked to her son while he was still in the womb, and the gist of that conversation was, well, mother, you have to go and conquer Korea, and by the way, I'm just going to stay put here for another month until you go and do that. I know you're, like, I forget what it was, like 9 months pregnant or something, but I'm just going to stay put. You go and conquer Korea. And she was kind of amazed at this, and her fetus told her, get moving, Mom. And she comes across in the records as somebody who is almost unearthly, somebody who is very tall, much taller than a normal person, somebody who has beautiful white teeth that also inspire fear in the enemy somehow. She's so beautiful and so pregnant that she inspires fear, and the enemy are just kind of cowed, and she doesn't have to fight, and she comes back to Japan and gives birth to the legendary founder of the Yamato dynasty. These are the kinds of women warriors that samurai, throughout the whole history of the samurai, were taught about. Really extraordinary figures. Mostly women were, they certainly managed the house, but really one way to think about them is as marriage, just people who were used by the patriarchs of the family, by the male heads of the family, to cement marriage alliances. Marriage for samurai was not like marriage for courtiers. Divorce was relatively easy and common and carefree in the world of the imperial court. Women had a great deal of agency there. Not so in samurai society. This is a much more patriarchal society. This is a society where warriors are controlling their clan, oftentimes by using their daughters and the daughters of their retainers as kind of marriage chips, if you will. Making alliances, cementing alliances between lords and vassals. They married each other's kids all the time. And so what you see is a society where, because of the tight clan structure of the samurai, women's rights, as we think of them today, or there was no such thing as rights in medieval Japan, but the freedom of women to make decisions within their own lives is greatly curtailed.